MonsterVerse Rodan exploded onto screens in Godzilla King of the Monsters, starring in what I would consider the best action sequence of the entire legendary series. Though like the destructive disasters the living volcano shares his natural abilities with, Rodan has since entered a period of cinematic dormancy. Which begs the question, what if Rodan wasn't relegated to a single film and he remained a more prominent character throughout the MonsterVerse? How, you ask? By exploring what if MonsterVerse Rodan evolved? Now in the first part, Rodan bested Tiamat, consuming her hyper-evolutionary flesh and bathing in some immense radiation, transforming the molten demon into an evolved titan, one with the power to match an alpha. After briefly stalemating Ghidorah, giving thermonuclear Godzilla the time to pull the win, Rodan's aggressive nature and overflowing power spurred him to battle an exhausted Godzilla. The world's legendary alpha fell, giving rise to Rodan, the new king of the monsters. So ultimately, what does this new world order look like?
Please disperse! Nothing to see here, please!
Yeah, basically that. Because while Rodan did hibernate for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, he most likely did so under Godzilla's direct orders. Here, well, not only would Rodan remain active, but his new kingdom would most likely be dictated by strength to reflect his own rise to power. So for instance, if a Titan wished to claim territory, the only factor Rodan would consider relevant is if the Titan was strong enough to claim it. If true, then that victorious Titan, which conquered the new territory, would hold the rightful claim to said domain. Which means Amaluk versus Behemoth would end with Amaluk conquering Behemoth's territory, as Rodan would see no value in variables like which Titan is better for the local environment. So long as Amaluk bent the knee, then his claim would be upheld. If perhaps the Inundator did not bend the knee, then he would most likely be turned to cinders by the living volcano relatively quickly. Thus, Amaluk refrains from direct hostility toward Rodan and assumes control of its hard-fought territory in Brazil. But what of Godzilla? How would the beaten Titan ultimately respond to his loss? Because remember, Rodan did not kill Godzilla. The Atomic Leviathan was just beaten to the point where he could no longer offer resistance. Well, if you guessed hold a grudge and restore balance, then you are ultimately very much correct. Fury boils beneath blackened scales from the chaos across the planet, at the imbalance Rodan has created with his reckless ascent to Alpha. But weakened after his arduous battle with King Ghidorah, Godzilla first needs to refuel his radioactive reserves. Thus, he returns to an old underwater lair as seen in Godzilla Dominion, one which the now deceased Tiamat does not control, but more than likely is home to another Destroyer-class Titan, one that is always searching for more radioactive power, Scylla. Though it should be said, even energy-starved, Godzilla shouldn't have any issue dealing with the giant crustacean, as he canonically beat Scylla, even energy-starved, in Dominion. So this fight should just be a repeat of that one. Weeks pass, Azure power rekindles within dorsal spines. Recharge reserves gives way to a beaten Alpha's ascent, a Leviathan ready to reclaim his throne. But where on Earth will this rematch between Alphas take place? Why on an island shaped like that of a human skull? For it is here on Skull Island that Rodan soars, gazing upon a battle between a black devil and a protective god. For those curious, this is still the year 2019. It's been weeks, at most months, since Godzilla's defeat, but the free-for-all, which is taking place across the globe between Titans, would act as the perfect catalyst for Camazotz to lay claim to Skull Island. Now in the comic Kingdom Kong, Camazotz needed a host of factors to lay siege to the island. For one, humanity's removal of the blocker lying atop Skull Island's Hollow Earth gateway. The other is a remnant of King Ghidorah's storm fusing with Skull Island's natural storm barrier, destabilizing the whole system and throwing the island's weather into a chaotic, lightning-filled darkness. But as specific as these prerequisites might be, Camazotz should be able to bypass each and every one of them. For one, seismic activity in the comic spoke to Camazotz attempting to break the blocker himself. Given enough time and effort, I can't imagine the blocker stopping a Titan that doesn't have to worry about Godzilla breathing down his neck in this timeline. As for the storm, even if Ghidorah's hurricane remnant isn't located off Skull Island yet, Camazotz can just still attack at night. And attack under the cover of darkness, the Black Bat does. Without significant aid by humanity like we saw in Kingdom Kong, Kong has to deal with the Swarm and the Black Bat himself. All the defiance and primal will in the world can't hold up under such a brutal, overwhelming beating. But as the protector of Skull Island's defeat seems assured, Azure power cuts through the night sky. Rodan, Camazotz all take notice as Godzilla comes ashore onto land he normally would never step foot upon. A thunderous bellow quakes the heavens, challenging Rodan for the title of Alpha of Earth. Now the Molten Demon, very much eager to best the Atomic Leviathan once more, gleefully accepts. The result is a clash of two titans brimming with unmatched radioactive power. However, equals in all traits, these two titans are not. To start, I've got to start with the recently evolved King. See, evolved Rodan's best path to victory lay in swift hit-and-run tactics, using his superior speed and stamina and his atomic eruptions, which are pulses of molten fury which erupt from Rodan, which should be something like Tiamat's pulse crossed with Godzilla's nuclear pulse. By contrast, Godzilla very much wants a close quarters brawl, so that way he can use his better leverage, concentrated firepower, and durability against Rodan. And that type of battle, at least at first, is what Rodan aggressively pursues as the two clash in close quarters combat. The brawl is vicious, each alpha going for the kill. However, they're not the only ones with such killing intent, for Camazotz's horde of minions, swarming the battlefield in grand numbers, would no doubt get Rodan and Godzilla in the crossfire. For Rodan, any bat that lands upon him is immediately turned to an ash-filled husk, so he doesn't really have to worry about the accidental attack. The Alpha, meanwhile, finds himself in a situation a certain Millennium Godzilla found itself in when fighting the Meganula swarm of Megaguirus. And unfortunately for Camazotz's horde, the same remedy is applied to resolve such minuscule pests. Azure fire cuts through the swarm, killing hundreds of bats in seconds. Now, Camazotz isn't really concerned about the deaths of his minions, they're just cannon fodder to him. But when Godzilla roars his way, ultimately wanting him and his minions to retreat into the Hollow Earth, Camazotz is put into a rough spot. For one, Camazotz's long life and history would suggest that he knows what Godzilla can do, and he doesn't want to cross him. On the other, it's all but certain Godzilla would reject his conquest of Skull Island if the Leviathan were to become Alpha once more. Kong and all those that have come before the Great Ape are no doubt better caretakers of Skull Island and its living residents than Camazotz would be. So caught between two unenviable paths, Camazotz forgoes retreat and aids the Molten Demon. Minions flock by the hundreds toward their new target, merely for any and all restraint Godzilla once possessed to attack Camazotz to be completely undone. A blast of atomic power cuts through the swarm and hits Camazotz directly. The Black Bat refocuses off a well and truly battered Kong to unleash a point-blank sonic screech the Leviathan's way, no doubt giving Godzilla some Muto Prime flashbacks. However, as Godzilla suffers under a 2v1 that would make his beating by the Muto seem inconsequential, Kong's indomitable will pushes him to stand. The Great Ape catches Camazotz completely by surprise, and while Rodan could put down Kong easily, the self-centered avian continues to focus upon his newly established rival. A truly grave mistake in hindsight, as Godzilla's durable hide holds up long enough for Kong to banish the Black Bat back to the Hollow Earth. Thus, it is Kong who ultimately blindsides Rodan to rid his home of the other flying invader of his home, Skull Island. And an absolute beating follows. The thing is, even if I highballed Rodan and said that his evolved form made him superior to that of his reptilian rival, something I categorically do not support, by the way, the tag team of Godzilla and Kong would surely win in this matchup. Here, with a Molten Demon I'd say is on par with Supercharged Godzilla, very much like how Evolved Godzilla was on par with Shimo, Rodan ultimately loses. But before a final blow is struck, Rodan hastily escapes to fight another day. Kong and Godzilla roar in victory, and unlike in our own timeline, this battle establishes their first encounter as one of mutual respect. Sure, Kong has seen wall paintings of Godzilla warning of the restored Alpha's destructive potential, and he still no doubt has reservations of the Alpha's intentions. But he can't deny that Godzilla did save his life. So on an upbeat, if tenuous relationship, Godzilla vanishes into the sea. But what of Rodan, you might be asking? Shockingly, while beaten, the defeated Alpha isn't too concerned by his loss. Yes, he did lose to Godzilla, but that wasn't really a fair fight, was it? So as Rodan returns to his Arctic lair and recharges, does he await for Godzilla's arrival to settle the score? Soon enough, Godzilla does arrive and faces off once more on a battlefield of ice. Yet, like I mentioned earlier, it's Rodan's overly aggressive nature that will ultimately doom himself to lose, even if he gets stronger from another energized recharge in Tiamat's old lair. There is no patsy, no excuse for the avian's pride to cling to. In an arduous back and forth battle between rival titans, Rodan loses, and recognizing that, the bested demon bows before Earth's true alpha. Problem is, it is far too late for such submission. Godzilla goes for the kill. Now, if a wing were broken or he were unable to fly, Rodan certainly would die here. But we are going to assume Rodan's evolved form didn't suffer any truly crippling injuries like that of the Ion Dragon. Thus, Rodan is able to flee to save his own life. And over the next few years, a dogged pursuit of Rodan becomes the new normal. Really, it's Rodan's ability to fly that gives him the luxury most titans that cross Godzilla can't afford. He can land, let's say, in a volcanic region, recharge, and then beat a hasty retreat once dorsal spines cross the horizon. It's an embarrassing position to be in for a prideful titan which once ruled the world, but it is the new way of life. That is, until Apex pauses Godzilla's pursuit. Urban centers ignite. Godzilla raises Apex facilities, sensing the return of his reviled three-headed rival. So like in the film, Apex is forced to turn to Dr. Lin to lead an expedition to the Hollow Earth to find a power source able to fuel Mechagodzilla. What is ultimately different though in this scenario compared to the film is the state of Skull Island. Since Camazotz attacked at night without destabilizing Skull Island's storm barrier, no cataclysm befalls the fauna or iwi that call the island home. What this also means is greater research can be done by Monarch and Apex upon their Skull Island base to research the island's Hollow Earth portal without suffering under the violent tempest we see in Godzilla vs. Kong. So instead of venturing to Antarctica, Kong, Dr. Lin, and the rest of the team use Skull Island's portal to enter the Hollow Earth. So ultimately, no Tasman Sea battle, no degradation of relations between Kong and Godzilla. This means when Kong finds his ancestral home, Godzilla is furious, but not enough to actively blast a hole all the way to the Hollow Earth. Which may sound as a positive at first, but like I discussed in part 3 of What If Gamera was in the MonsterVerse, it leaves Godzilla ultimately alone against Mechagodzilla. Though unlike that part, Godzilla is supercharged here, meaning that at full power, Godzilla can stand up to Mechagodzilla's relentless might. Also unlike that part, Madison Russell's team, including Bernie, can undermine Mechagodzilla's computer systems, giving Godzilla definitive times where he can gain an edge during the battle. Though whether Godzilla can ultimately overcome his mechanical doppelganger is irrelevant, because before such an outcome can be determined, Rodan arrives on the scene. The Molten Demon descends from on high, also having sensed Mechagodzilla's rise. But if you think that the Molten Demon is here to kill Godzilla, you are very much mistaken and correct. For it is you, the audience, who gets to decide how things progress from here. Does Rodan come to Godzilla's aid, using molten eruptions alongside atomic rays to wear down the Titan-killing steel until Mechagodzilla succumbs to the current and former alphas? Or does Rodan wait on the sidelines, vengeance guiding him to allow things to play out, letting Godzilla or Mechagodzilla die so we can attempt to become an alpha once more? You can vote either in the comments below by liking my comment, or by voting in the YouTube post I just uploaded today. And yes, you can vote twice. Whatever outcome you ultimately choose is what I'll go with in part 3. You can expect that in about 6 weeks' time. There should be 2 videos between then and now, so hope you enjoy the content until then. But if you haven't already, remember to like and subscribe. I'm GrayShot151, and I'll catch you all next time. Until then, later.